On this week's Political Figure episode, we're joining the brainless and the heartless on the yellow brick road because we're off to see Mehmet, whatever, some totally red, white, and blue-blooded American name, Oz. Dr. Oz, the son of Muslim Turkish immigrants, was born on June 11th, 1960 in Cleveland, Ohio, making him a baby that we know help anchor his very privileged and wealthy Turkish immigrant parents in the United States of America. Growing up, Oz went to Tower Hill School and spent his summers in Turkey, and after that, he went and served in the army. Not the U.S. Army, the Turkish army. He served for a grueling almost 2 months so he could keep his dual citizenship. He then went on to get his undergrad in biology from Harvard before going on to get his medical degree from Wharton. I don't get it. Harvard and Yale seem to produce just like regular supervillains, and then Wharton seems to produce just cartoon supervillains. Because Dr. Oz is absolutely a fucking cartoon character, and he's about to be a part of an administration that is headed up by a sherbet-colored Wharton, and I use this word very loosely, educated clown. Anyway, moving on. In 1995, he founded the Cardiac Complementary Care Center, or something along those lines, where he practiced make-believe medicine like therapeutic touch. Which, to be fair, definitely sounds like something inappropriate enough for a Trump cabinet member to have done. And it turns out it was a really incredibly inappropriate type of touching. Just not in, like, the Matt Gaetz inappropriate type of touching, more in the, if people believed that this was actually going to help their cardiac problems, they would probably die inappropriate type of touching. And as a result, the very real hospital that he was associated with told him he needed to stop doing make-believe medicine or they were going to cut ties with him. Around that same time, he became famous for performing. Do you have any idea how many times I've made this take over and over again because my lips will just not form the words famous for performing? Famous for performing a heart transplant on Frank Torres. He was related to some manager for the Yankees who won the World Series that year, and people cared, and he got lots of publicity, which he apparently fucking loved. As a result, his colleague and co-owner at the Cardiac Complementary Care Center or whatever left. He's like, fuck this. This guy is obsessed with the media circus and he couldn't stand it anymore. And as a result, Oz reopened the center as the Cardiovascular Institute later that same year. Now, to give credit where it's due, he and his institute were involved with the development of a fair amount of medical devices, which I think are good things. But then again, to be fair, so is Ben Carson, and that man is a walking vegetable and an evil cartoon character as well. Also, in the early 2000s, he and his institute conducted lots of, research. Some of this research he was even scheduled to present at the annual conference for the American Association of Thoracic Surgery. And then apparently they read the research he was supposed to present and they're like, yeah, no, this is some quackery, and they didn't let him present it. Also, his research apparently involved torturing thousands of puppies and killing hundreds of them, which again, puppycide seems like another prerequisite for a Trump administration resume. I used to think it was kind of fucked up that Trump was like the only president who didn't have a dog, but now I'm kind of glad. That pup would be Old Yeller before the end of Inauguration Day. His quackery has continued ever since, and in 2015 he was called out by a number of physicians for having a disdain for science and fact-based medicine. So what's a hack doctor to do? Go on television and give expert advice on the Oprah Winfrey Show, of course. To be fair, he actually started his TV career with his own show that his wife produced called Second Opinion with Dr. Oz. That lasted a whopping 5 episodes. But Oprah was an interviewee on one of those episodes, and what the fuck else is Oprah supposed to do when she meets a quack but tell him to bring their hacky sack ass over to her show and give bored housewives bad medical advice about anti-aging supplements? And that's what he did for the next decade. He just sat around on the OWN network conning gullible daytime television watchers into buying into scammy weight loss pyramid scheme supplement bullshit. It was so bad that in 2014 he was called to testify in a Senate hearing on consumer protection. He became the laughing stock of the medical and scientific community, and therefore the perfect candidate for Donald Trump in 2018 to appoint him to the Council on Fitness, Nutrition, and Sports. In 2020, he used his position to peddle medical misinformation about COVID, encourage people to take drugs that he owned personally over $500,000 in stocks for. And then in 2022, being a washed-up television star with absolutely no political or governmental experience, he was perfectly qualified to run for Senate on the Republican ticket in Pennsylvania, which he subsequently lost. But not before being able to run a campaign demonstrating that he's the perfect Republican candidate, more than willing to sell his soul and about face on any moral or ethical convictions he's ever held. Like in 2017, he co-authored an article on the threats of climate change, and then in 2022 on the campaign trail, no, I don't believe that carbon dioxide has anything to do with climate change. Before running for Senate, he was pro-women's health care, saying that he's personally seen the medical horrors of a pre-Roe v. Wade America. Then in 2022, he was all for the overturning of Roe. In 2013, he was bragging about his relationship with a Chinese tech company. In his 2022 Senate campaign, he was like, I'm going to be super tough on China. In 2019, he co-authored an article that called for an assault weapons ban, and then on this campaign trail, he said he was super pro-Second Amendment, and then now he's for red flag laws because Republicans can't keep their fucking shit straight on gun policy. He used to support LGBTQ rights and trans people, and even featured trans people on his show. And now he's like, oh, there's no scientific evidence to suggest that trans people exist. In 2009, he supported universal healthcare and said everybody had a right to healthcare whether they could afford it or not. Then when he ran for Senate, he's like, nobody has a right to healthcare. You just have a right to be able to access healthcare. And he would vote to repeal the Affordable Care Act. He'll basically just say anything that he thinks will make Republicans like him. And on top of that, he just holds some really shitty opinions in general. Like, he's a big fan of Israel and keeping their genocidal capital in Jerusalem. He hates teachers' unions and public schools and supports voucher systems because fuck those poor kids. He supports the death penalty for fentanyl dealers, but not the pharma CEO fentanyl dealers, you know, the lower level ones. Because we can't hold the people actually causing the problems accountable because they have all the money that they donate to him. And now, with all of that, he, the Islamic son of Turkish immigrants, has been nominated to the cabinet of the guy who ran on banning all Muslims from entering the country, deporting all immigrants, and ending birthright citizenship. You literally can't make this shit up. To stand beside another just, you know, medical genius with a brainworm, RFK Jr., and oversee Medicare and Medicaid. Which I'm sure will go great and not at all be comically horrible, but also depressingly sad and cruel. Yep. Nothing bad possibly gonna happen with this one.